Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu and Abu Qatada radiyallahu anhuma narrated a hadith on behalf of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this hadith, it's a story and it is authentic and it's found in Sunan Abi Dawood and other books of a Sunnah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, there were two men from Bani Israel. One of them كان مجتهد في العبادة. He was committed upon worship. He was a worshipper. He would worship Allah Azza wa Jal day and night. وَالْآخَرُ كَانَ مُذْنِبًا. And the other man was a sinner, an intense sinner. So every time the worshipper would walk past the sinner, he would say to him, أقصر, stop committing sins. He would warn him, he would remind him of Allah, and he would condemn this person's sins. And he'd always do this until one day the sinner said to the worshipper, خلني وربي أبعثت علي رقيبا. The sinner said to the worshipper, leave me alone, leave me. What I do is between me and my Lord. Have you been sent as a guardian and a watcher over me? This is what he said. So the worshipper, he got angry. And he said to the sinner, Wallahi la yaghfiru Allahu laka abada, Wallahi la yudkhiluka Allahu al-Jannah. He said to him, by Allah. The worshipper took an oath by Allah. And he said to the sinner that Allah would never ever forgive you. And He would never admit you into the paradise. He said words like this. So they died. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrected them. And He said to the worshipper, أَكُنْتَ بِي عَالِمًا. Did you have knowledge of me? In other words, where did you get these words from? How did you dare take an oath on behalf of Allah Azza wa Jal that Allah will not forgive such a person? أَكُنْتَ بِي عَالِمًا. And then Allah Azza wa Jal, He said to him, oh, did you have the ability to do what I do? Meaning, did you have the ability to put this person in the hellfire or admit him into the paradise? Was this in your ability? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judged and He said to the sinner, go to the paradise, I have forgiven you. And He said to the worshipper, اذهبوا به إلى النار. He said to the angels, take him to the hellfire. Allahu Akbar. My brothers and sisters in Islam, this is a very important hadith. I tell you why. Today, there is many people that are very careful when it comes to al-halal and haram. They make sure that their income is halal so that they eat what is halal and feed their families what is halal. And these are the same people that are very careful when it comes to haram. They want to know what meat is halal, what meat is haram. They want to know what transactions are halal and what transactions are haram. And they keep away from the haram. And they adhere to what is halal and what is permissible, and they adhere to Allah's worship. But they don't take notice and consideration for the words that come out from their tongue. Allahu Akbar. Look at this person. This is a worshipper that ended up being thrown in Jahannam because of a word he said. And that is that he said to a sinner, Allah will never forgive you. And this is the word that a person is supposed to be careful of. Why? Because when a person looks at a sinner and says to him, Allah will never forgive you, then that can only stem and come out of arrogance and ego and self-righteousness. Such a person, he said this word out of arrogance. Out of arrogance. He saw himself. He took pride in that which he done. And he thought he's a worshipper and that he can speak on behalf of Allah. And saying such words goes against at-tawheed, because this is speaking on behalf of Allah in that which you have no knowledge. Who gave you knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jal will not forgive such and such? How many times in history there were people that acted like Fir'aun and worse than Fir'aun, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His mercy forgave them, and He accepted their tawbah, and He guided them and made them from the people of the paradise. How many people lived a life of sin and rebellion and transgression One sin after the other, minor sins, major sins, rebellion, exploding in rebellion. And then towards the end of his life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses to guide him, and he becomes from the righteous slaves of Allah, and Allah forgives his past and admits him into the paradise. How many times has this happened in history? And how many stories have we read of people that Allah Azza wa Jal has guided after a life full of misguidance? Therefore, we need to be careful, my brothers and sisters in Islam, not to speak such words.